Hello, and welcome to the Project Good podcast. I'm your host, Annmarie Hylton. Project Good is a social impact podcast interviewing experts and advocates about the pressing problems that we face globally and hearing how they suggest we move forward in the future. The Project Good podcast is brought to you by Project Good Work. The goal of this podcast is to inspire people and organizations to develop a mindset that can move others to positive action regarding the complex social issues facing people and the planet. For May, we have a special flash episode featuring Farm Up Jamaica. Farming in Jamaica has evolved from the cultivation of traditional crops by the Taino Indians to the large-scale plantation agriculture of the colonial era, and now to a more diversified, sustainable approach in the modern period. Agriculture continues to play an important role in Jamaica's economy, culture, and way of life, despite the challenges the sector has faced over the centuries. In the current times, Jamaica's economy is fueled by tourism, mining, and exports like sugar, coffee, bananas, and yams. Farm Up Jamaica is a local initiative aimed at addressing some of the key challenges facing the agricultural sector in Jamaica. The program focuses on empowering Jamaican farmers, increasing food production, and promoting sustainable farming practices. It was launched in 2016 by the Jamaican government with the support of private sector entities and other stakeholders. The program is designed to promote agricultural development, food security, and job creation within the rural economy. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing Neil Curtis, who leads Farm Up Jamaica and has decided to pursue a lifelong, heartfelt objective to tackle the current economic crisis in Jamaica through the revitalization of agriculture with climate-smart organic farming. With a strong family history in Jamaican farming, Neil understands the value and tradition of farming to live. In 2013, during the Jamaican Diaspora conference, Neil met Jamaicans from the U.S., UK, and Canada who shared a common heartfelt concern regarding the underutilized agricultural sector. In contrast to tourism, which represents 60% of the Jamaican gross domestic product, agriculture only represents 6% of the economy. Today, the Diaspora organized to form Farm Up Jamaica, which would work to help safeguard job security and food security in addition to reducing crime through large-scale cultivation of organic produce. Let's get into the interview. After gaining independence from Britain in 1962, Jamaica's agricultural sector faced numerous challenges. In the latter half of the 20th century, agriculture in Jamaica faced declining productivity, land degradation, and the rise of tourism and manufacturing as dominant sectors of the economy. Many traditional farming communities struggled, and rural migration to urban areas became more common. In response, the Jamaican government implemented practices to support agriculture, including the promotion of modern farming techniques and increased investment in irrigation, infrastructure, and research. Farmers began to diversify their crops and focus on organic farming, agro-processing, and the export of specialty products like herbs and spices. Farm Up Jamaica is a comprehensive initiative that aims to strengthen the agricultural sector, create opportunities for farmers, and contribute to the broader economic development of the country. Now we will begin our conversation with Neil Curtis, who leads Farm Up Jamaica. Welcome, Neil.
Good morning, Miss Hylton. How are you?
Good. How are you?
It's a beautiful day in our neighborhood here. I'm in New York.
Yes, over here, I'm in California. It's raining. So it doesn't rain very often here in Southern California, but definitely, I guess you could say we need it, especially we just experienced a series of catastrophic fires.
Oh, yeah, I know that you guys go through those things. And, Jamaica has its fires also that people don't really speak about. In many cases, it gets so hot and dry that there are bushfires. And many times they're never really reported, but we see them because we're in the field.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I guess that's, especially faced with, since we're speaking about farming, I'm sure that's something farmers have to be prepared for.
Oh, yeah. There's so many things that farmers have to be prepared for that a lot of people don't realize. And so, Farm Up Jamaica is kind of that liaison that brings people, regular, normal people, into this world of agriculture. And I think that's another, major part of what we're doing. We're kind of helping people to acclimate to what agriculture really, really is.
Yes. And so I wanted to ask, I usually, one of the things before I dive into a deep series of questions with my interviewees is I try to understand each interviewee's kind of heart and what is, happening inside of them. So what, I guess, from a personal standpoint, got you interested in farming?
Well, in 2013, I was summoned to come to Jamaica because my uncle had passed away. My uncle was the last surviving member of a long line of entrepreneurs and farmers, or agri-entrepreneurs, if you'd call it that. And when I got to Jamaica, my aunt said to me, she says, we know you like coming to Jamaica and everything, and we have 60 acres of cocoa, which is chocolate. And she says, why don't you come and revive the fields? I mean, I'm sure that there's got to be a great market for this, because we all grew up and, our plane tickets were bought to go to America and England and Canada from the same sale of cocoa. Anyway, I took on the challenge. And when I took on the challenge, I went out and I just looked around to see if any of the other farmers in the area were also farming cocoa. And I found that none of them were. So I asked, what's going on here? Why aren't you guys farming? And they said, well, they don't have any assistance. They said, the last couple of hurricanes over the years put them out of business. So I said, well, why don't you just go to the government, ask, the ministry or whatever? And they said, no, that assistance is not there any longer. Anyway, I was kind of not believing and went to the ministry only to find out that what they were telling me was true. They told me that you have to, make your own investment if you're going to want to revitalize cocoa. Anyway, at the same time, they were hosting the Jamaican Diaspora conference. Now, that's where people from all around the world come together to figure out how to help Jamaica fix some of the problems that it has. And the government invites, Jamaicans to do that. So I went to that meeting, conference. When I got there, I started talking about agriculture in a networking group. And I thought people were going to not be very interested, but everybody was very interested. Everybody was interested in figuring out how to revitalize agriculture. And I kind of didn't want to throw my one little chocolate or cocoa project on the table. So I kind of, at that moment, I became selfless. And I kind of had to put my project on a back burner and just kind of talk to them about fixing agriculture across the whole sector. And that's how Farm Up Jamaica began. We Jamaican Diaspora from the Diaspora conference came together, and we said, yeah, we're gonna stand together. And some people from Miami, some from Canada, some from England, some from Washington, D.C. and New York, all came together, and we decided we're going to have this nonprofit organization, which is what Farm Up Jamaica is. We're a 501c3 formed in the United States of America, nonprofit organization, and we're formed to help reduce the importation of foreign food into Jamaica, increase Jamaican exports, put young people and farmers back to work in regenerative, climate-smart agriculture, and to help reduce crime and poverty by creating opportunities. And that's really how Farm Up Jamaica started. And that's the reason, the passion that I have behind it. From that, we went We met with the Ministry of Agriculture. We met with JamPro. They directed us into different communities that needed assistance with agriculture. And, that's how we launched and started making it all happen.
Wow, that's amazing. You, touched two things on having community, and I always think about farming as a community type of industry. Of exchanging not only knowledge of how to do things when it comes to farming on the land, but also an exchange of a personal I can help you. And so having that expanse of reaching out to people all over the world and coming together okay, let's move together and make this happen. So already I would say that's a win for any initiative, is that if you can get people to already jump in to collaborate. I guess what is when you have began in Farm Up in Jamaica, and I'm making the assumption, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure you've met with local farmers and things like that. What would you say is the main challenge which is holding farmers back on the island?
I'm gonna say the real main problem and challenge in the farming belt of Jamaica is not having access to the correct markets. Number one. And then now the planning and the organization and the unification of farmers actually uniting to get the work done is also a lack. So that type of cooperative spirit is also missing. And then thirdly, I would say that the weather and the change in climate and the extensive droughts are as another issue. And then fourthly, I'd say that the techniques that are being used in Jamaica, they're very antiquated. And then they're coupled with chemicals or conventional farming methods that are not necessarily going to teach people how to increase their yields, but just continue that subsistence farming model that's been left with the persons after colonialism.
Yes, and so in this, you essentially need to re-educate the farmers overall.
Absolutely.
And I guess that's happening not just in Jamaica, but just even in globally because of, whether people want to believe it or not, climate change, but also just from, if we go back to, I'm not an expert farmer, but I do know that, one of the processes in farming is that you were supposed to be rotating crops and things like that to keep healthy soil. And not necessarily were people doing that all the time, and so that along with chemicals has contributed to, I guess I would say, the mess that we find ourselves in. And so I guess in trying to re-educate people, because I don't know, would you say from one of the perspectives is that the people who are interested in farming now, would you say that generation is it growing, or is it I don't know, are there a lot of young people within Jamaica that are willing to take up that profession?
So the first thing that we must understand is that the willingness of somebody to want to do anything is based on the current status of whatever that thing may be. So if you have a dying profession that is not generating revenue, that doesn't do well, and people work hard but get very little for it, then the interest for people to farm is probably not it's not what we call second nature. right? Nobody's ready to run and go do farming because they don't have enough good examples, as Jamaica is importing some higher portion of food, I believe 85%, right? And so they don't get a chance to see very successful farmers. Now, in the United States, you can go into places like the Corn Belt and you see these millionaire farmers that are doing really well with grains and things like that. Jamaica doesn't have the example. And so it's not that the people don't want to farm. They just don't want to waste their time. And so people, and the young people, again, who are, quick thinkers, they don't want to waste time on things that are going to take a long time and not give them the reward. So what Farm Up Jamaica has done is we've changed that concept, and we're able to explain to them how we can offer them a new market and how funds can be made by doing things more effectively, more efficiently, understanding Mother Nature, understanding the climate, and then using all of that to create this product that's probably can sell for more than what the regular conventional food can sell for, which is, explained by a place like Whole Foods or Trader Joe's or Wegmans, you name it, right? The things are more expensive, and there's a definite demand for it, that people want to go out and buy this food because people are concerned about their health.
Now, one of the things also that I'm noticing just from a global standpoint, I'm also thinking that, and this is just part of reading and research and part of personal hunch, is that it's going to be become critical for almost everyone on the planet to know how to farm, because I think we're heading into some really difficult times on the planet. I think what they say, and I don't always mean to be pessimistic, but this is just what experts say, that if we continue how we are now with our farming practices and the production within the industry, that we are looking at mass problems with the ability to have enough food, because of not only having enough workers, but the soil itself is getting burnt out from all the chemicals, and just the way that we're practicing everything in general is not going to be sustainable. And so it's becoming, I think, critical that almost everybody knows how to, I guess, grow their own food if they want to, continue their own existence. And so I think that was one of the reasons I actually was so interested in interviewing you, because I think it's an initiative that just has to happen in the future. I guess, have you been seeing the same things?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, technically we are in a food shortage right now. And the future is not that bright, only because the more droughts that we have, the more fires you guys have in California, the more drying up of the river, the Colorado River and things like this. I use the United States because it is the big, it's the conglomerate, right? And so it tells you that if it's happening here and we can't control it, then third world countries are having 3 times the problem. Farm Up Jamaica has experienced droughts on our farms that last as long as 6 months. And so that says that there's going to be less food. There's no way around that. There's going to be less food. We're sure of that part, right? Because farming requires water. And when the water levels are down, it's not this that the rain is not falling. It's that the rivers are drying up. It's that the water sources for wherever these guys are getting water from, the wells and all those things are very low at that time when the drought is in play. And so it's not just because you didn't get rain. Rainfall is not necessarily what we rely on to irrigate properties. rainfall just maintains and helps to maintain the water levels so that things are right. The aquifers are at the right level. The rivers are still flowing and right. And so we definitely see the damage, and we definitely see the effect of what is happening and why food is going to get very scarce very quickly. I mean, even in America, farmers are trashing their crops after not having enough water to give the crops throughout the regular growth cycle. So it's definitely an imminent concern.
Yes, and I was reading also before about Jamaica's drought problem. Jamaica, a lot of people may not know that the name itself is the land of wood and water. And so, it's sad or ironic or to, have a place that now the water part is drying up. From what the history I know is that Jamaica always had pretty fertile soil. And so I guess if people wanted to get started in your initiative and wanted to come and learn, I guess what are the steps that they need to take?
Now, all right. So we run a program that is fueled by the Diaspora. Remember, we started this out of the Diaspora conference. So our whole model is predicated on the Jamaican diaspora literally coming back to Jamaica and becoming Jamaica's greatest hope, right? So we kind of say, okay, all right, diaspora, where are you from? And when I say diaspora, guys, I really just mean a Jamaican living abroad. So it's just a Jamaican maybe living in New York, or like yourself living in California, or someone that's living in Canada or England. And we're saying to them, all right, let's go back to your community where you come from. We call it the navel string program. Because in Jamaica, they say, we're going to go back to where your navel string cut. It's a navel string. And so we connect Jamaicans that live abroad back to their own home communities, and we get them to put together support for a farming community within their own old community, right? So in a place like America, they'd call that a cooperative, right? And what we do is we give them a market to sell food to. And it's a mainstream market normally. It might be a group of hotels. It might be supermarkets. It might be export, right, to a different location. And what we do is we go into the communities. We do soil testing, and we speak to farmers, and we organize them, and we train them, and we get them up to snuff to farm in this what we call regenerative climate smart agriculture, which is a technology that Farm Up Jamaica has actually created. And then we put each farmer to work on their own properties, and we don't start with more than about 1 acre per farmer, and we have them do what we call day-for-day farming. It's like a round robin where all the farmers come together and go to the first farmer's farm. And then they farm that up, of course, using our techniques. And we have our oversight and our people from Farm Up Jamaica that actually stay in that community and make sure that the processes are being carried out correctly, because we have to guarantee to the market what we promise them, which is good, wholesome food that's unadulterated. Then they all gang farm that first farm, and then they'll go to the second farm, let's say the next day or the day after, and gang farm that farm. All the farmers in the community working together to farm each farm until the whole farming community is farmed up. And then now we set up packing stations. We set up tool sheds so that they have access to tools and machinery to get the work done. And they maintain those lands all together, working together until they come to fruition, in which we go in and we do the harvest. We also set up packing stations and places to store food, as it relates to refrigeration and things like those. And so that the whole community is kind of self-sufficient. And then we teach them how to box, we teach them how to pack, we teach them how to ship. And so the truck comes, they load the truck, and it's off to the market. They get paid. The hotel, the supermarket, the export gets their produce, and everybody's happy.
Wow, that is a full and comprehensive program. I think that I don't know if I've heard a program that has essentially touched on all the key pieces and put together, I guess, even the workers in place. And not only that, the thing I love, just like I was saying at the beginning, is this whole sense of community.
When it's community driven the way that I explained it, it's very hard to break that chain. Because the moment one person in the chain gets weak or drops off, the whole thing can crumble. And everybody's relying on the chain to stay solid because everybody's relying on the same source of income. So nobody wants to lose the market. So the moment that the consistency stops is the moment that they risk losing the market. So everybody's making sure that nobody comes in and steals anyone's crops. Everybody's making sure that nobody actually, if somebody falls short, that somebody's coming and filling in the blank. Because they know that if we go to the hotel and we say, oh boy, with this, we never have the lettuce this week. The hotel is literally going to resort back to importation. Because that's a guaranteed market. They can guarantee that if they import, they don't have to hear the stories. And that's the problem why most hotels don't buy from local farmers. Because one farmer might try to do this big job and then they fall short. And when you fall short, you can't tell the guests that, oh, I'm sorry, we don't have lettuce today. They don't want to hear that. They're spending 5-star money.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the things, this is just an aside, a tangent to let people know how important it is actually, not just, from an economic standpoint to support local farmers. It's also in their best interests in regards to health. I was recently actually reading a medical study of why it's so important to eat local. Like a lot of us, we hear this thing like eat local, and we think it's really about economics, but it's actually also very pertinent to your health, because when you are visiting different environments, the thing that you can't see, because this is happening from microscopic and biological level that your eyes are not seeing happen, but when you are in different environments, your body is adjusting to whatever that climate, whatever those different microorganisms that you're breathing in, the food that you're consuming there, and so each time you go to a different spot on the planet or within your community, your body is adjusting to that. And so if you eat food that is actually grown within that local community, your body is able to maximize the capacity of that food and fuel you, and you are much healthier within that environment. And so eating local and supporting local is not just only about economics. It's also coming directly back to you as an individual in the form of better health and, having maximum energy and vitality. I wanted to bring that to people, that it's so important, and why getting farming and supporting farmers in the local communities are just so much more about than economics. The other thing that I wanted to talk to you about is, having, I guess, Jamaica is known a lot from its historical perspective that it had a lot of plantations, sugar plantations. If we go back through a time, everybody had this craving. Europeans had the craving for sugar, and of course, the creation of rum, alcohol. And so, how has it been to kind of add and diversify the markets? Has that been a great challenge for both introducing like new products to the farmers and then also finding markets on the island for that? Has that been a challenge or not really?
What really happens is the market, because we grow food that's sustainable, because we grow food that's organic, and not without all of the chemicals. There's a definite specific lane that Farm Up Jamaica is in, right? Just to give you an example, we've grown food, whether it be carrots or onions or pineapples and then many others. We've grown those things and put them in supermarkets all across Jamaica. And although their other produce is the conventional produce that's chemicalized, sells for less money, our Farm Up Jamaica produce sells first. People want good, clean food to eat. We don't have a problem creating new markets for anything in Jamaica. In fact, many of the hotels are dying to boast that they have local foods. They're dying, but they want to make sure that the food is consistent. They cannot take on the challenge of not having the consistency. And so the organization and the strategy has to be there in order to make sure that this food is going to be consistent.
Now, I guess consistency seems to be something that you keep tapping on. So how, I guess, if you were going to give yourself an estimate within the next few years, I guess, how many more people do you think that you need to become farmers to provide that consistency?
Well, again, we strategize the market also. So let's just say, that we are focused on lettuce. We're going to focus on lettuce, and we're going to look at the numbers, the amount of lettuce that's being imported into the country, and then we have to make a decision on how much of that we want to tackle. Do we want to tackle 50%? Do we want to tackle 100%? And once we've made that decision, then we can decide how long it's actually going to take us to do those things. But I don't think that we're really, it's a $1.3 billion US market, the importation of food into Jamaica. And just 10% of that is $130 million US. So it's a lot to really tell you that I can strategize. At this moment, I probably can't give you a solid answer of how long it's going to take for us to actually, say that we're streamlined into market, but I can tell you that these are the beginning steps that are going to be necessary to build a foundation so that we do have successful agriculture, agri-entrepreneurship from here forward.
So how can like a local Jamaican like myself, I guess, help you now?
Well, if you live abroad, which I think that's where I'm seeing that the strong hold is, right? That's where we should start from. If we live abroad and we've been exposed to so many great businesses that you see flourishing and the free enterprise that many get from living in countries like, the United States, or it's something that you've learned, and it's something that we should be taking back to Jamaica and enriching our farmers with. I believe that Jamaicans that live abroad are the backbone for the farming community because they come from those farming communities. People have to realize Kingston is just a very small place. Everything else outside of Kingston is a farming community. And so the backbone and the beginning of this investment whether that be social or a socioeconomic investment, I believe lies in the hands of Jamaicans that live worldwide around the globe, and to come to a Farm Up Jamaica and help us to organize that strategy for you in your community. And as a nonprofit, maybe even assist in donation in certain parts of it, right? Because when you talk about rebuilding the infrastructure of a community, that's really no one person's job. It's a collective job, and you got to put people's hands together in order to, let's say, bring water to the community or drill a well that everybody in the community can actually, benefit from. But if you come from that community, it shouldn't be such a hard lift to find and galvanize more people that live in California, that live in New York, that live in, England or Canada, to come together, especially if you're from that community, to actually put hands to get these things going, so that not only do you build a better social place, a place where you can now replug into when you go to Jamaica and people are waiting for you to come because they're happy to see you because you've brought this socioeconomic strategy to their community, but also to feel that sense of pride that, wow, Jamaica can change and you've been a part of the change.
Fantastic. I guess you can definitely sign me up. I want to learn more myself about farming. As I said, I believe it's critical for our survival each in the future, that everybody's going to need to learn how to really do farming themselves in order for them to have enough food. I don't want to be the person 10 years from now having to go run over and fight my neighbor for the apple. On a hopefully a happy note, what would you say is a story you would love to share about your experience that just made you either warm your heart or you were just wow, and either somebody that you helped that was a farmer, somebody you educated, a moment that just, I guess lit you up since you've started this experience?
So we were told that young people don't want to work, they're lazy. There's a million stories, right? And what we ended up finding out is that we started to interview, we had to do research and development. Everything that we've done in Farm Up Jamaica has been researching and developing and figuring out what the problem was, and then figuring out what the answer to that problem, solution, right? So they told us, the young people, forget about it. And, there was a moment where, we were getting tired because, you go in and, we're doing this out of the goodness of our hearts. And sometimes you wonder if the people really appreciate it. And I remember going to young people and talking to them about doing agriculture and allowing them to have a voice, allowing them to say what they thought would do well in the farm or what have you. And it gave them inspiration, and it gave them a sense of ownership. We were allowing them to help us come up with solutions, right? And these were young people that are somewhere between the ages of 17 to about 24. And we were teaching them how to do agriculture. And they were willing to learn. And they loved the idea that it was something new. And they loved the idea that they didn't have to go to some of the older farmers to actually learn this information, because a lot of the older farmers have the whole idea of children are to be seen and not heard. And so sometimes we don't recognize that we are the reasons why the kids are lazy. We are the reasons why they're probably smoking or not being collaborative or connecting with us. And I was able to pull that out of young people and understand what the real truth was, and that these people can be Jamaica's new farmers to change the whole dynamic of agriculture across the sector. And so that was a wonderful moment for me. I remember meeting a girl on the farm, and, we would pull people from schools, right? And this one school we would always go to every Friday and let them come and stay the weekend and board with Farm Up Jamaica to learn about organic agriculture. So it was about 4 times that I saw this one girl, and, I said to her, well, why don't you give another student a chance? It's you come here every week, give somebody else a chance to fill that position that you're taking up. And she says, boy, Mr. Curtis, she says, you don't realize how much this program is helping me. She says, every time you see me come here, it's because my cousins are calling me to come to Kingston to do things that I don't really want to do, right? And your farming program is keeping me constructive because my cousins don't want me to do something constructive in Kingston. And that was when it hit home that this project and this program is so much greater than I can explain. So again, there are reasons why people are in certain situations in Jamaica. There are reasons why young people don't move to the drum of what you want them to do, and ultimately we have to create constructive work for our young people, or they're going to end up selling drugs. They end up using a gun. They're going to end up in prostitution.
Wow.
And we're going to say that they just don't want to work, or they just looking the easy way out. But a lot of those young people, when they go to the elders for help, they tell them, you're just a kid, get away from here. And they don't give them the time of the day. They don't believe that they have any creativity in their minds. But I have learned that there's a certain way to treat human beings, whether old or young. And many of our Jamaicans have to come up to that level in order to see the reality of the future of Jamaica.
Wow. I was just thinking, here we are talking about agriculture, and, not only are we growing food, but growing young people and young minds. And, the missing link is like cultivating it all together, because just like when it comes to farming and agriculture, it's a continuous cycle. And so tying that together with, young generations and, leaving them out of that link is, affecting us in ways that we didn't know about. And it became so clear in your story that, we are contributing to our demise, I guess you would say, by not introducing people to, I would say, the fundamentals of just our humanity, right? And when it comes to, growing something, you have to nurture it. And so just like we need to nurture them. And so going back into, I guess a disconnection on so many levels. So what you said was just, it got me thinking about things on so many perspectives, and that, it's about more than just the farming, that, the thing that we've been missing is that we haven't been passing down the things that we know from generations to generations. And that's the thing that brought us to where we are now. And then even though we want to say we're in such a quote unquote connected world, we're so disconnected on the foundational level. So that was a wonderful story you just told.
Well, thank you. I mean, again, I can only give you realistic stories because I've been through them. We've been down the road. In Jamaica, I'm going to tell you, if I always say, if you can do it in Jamaica, you can do it anywhere in the world. Jamaica, in many cases, like you said earlier,
some of what I see is that we're our own greatest enemy. We're not what's the word? We're not supporting the things that support us. We kind of shun the things that will support us in many cases, or want to support us. Sometimes we don't even give it a chance. And I believe that the young people are a part of that support system that's being actually just shunned and not really paid much attention to.
Wow. And yeah, and now I understand Farm Up Jamaica even from a creator's perspective. It's not only from a food perspective, but it's you're working on a bigger initiative to not only bring community, change minds, but to change, I guess you would say, what should a worldview, I guess, which is such a bigger challenge than most people would ever take on. So your initiative essentially is challenging the worldview.
Absolutely. It's easy to go to Jamaica and believe that everything is okay, because people in Jamaica are very, they're happy. They come across as happy. They'll take you to the party. You go hang out and they'll go eat some food, or but really what they're trying to do is quiet the negativity that's in their heads. That the real problems that they're really experiencing. And a lot of us, or a lot of them, I should say, they bite the bullet with a smile. And a lot of weird things are going on in the background that they have now accepted as normal. So they don't come out and they're not having an Oprah Winfrey moment. You know what I'm saying? They're just saying, well, that's just the way things are. And so we go down and we don't really understand that dynamic, because we believe that everybody that's having a problem has a tear attached to it. But they don't have their tears are hidden. Or maybe they stop crying. That they're past that moment. And now they've just said that, well, I'm going to have to do this or whatever until I can change my life. And I think that Farm Up Jamaica offers an opportunity for young people and older people to change their lives. And they've never ever had that before, because normally the things that are offered to our people in Jamaica is just enough to get by. It's never enough to actually change your life. And so here it is, just offering the opportunity that somebody might be able, in their country district or where they are, have a sufficient amount of resources to build a house, to buy a car, to send my children to school. It's called, just normal life. We're not saying we want to be millionaires or billionaires. We just want to have enough money and resources to live. And Jamaican people don't have that. Jamaicans that live abroad send $3.5 billion to Jamaica to sustain family and family members every year. $3.5 billion. That is not a small amount of money. And
no, it's not. Wow.
Without that money, Jamaica could possibly be a war zone, because that is almost like a welfare check that people get to keep them calm every week. Right? That's like social service in America. They go to Western Union. In America, you receive your check. And so here is where we have to say, okay, guys, and that's why the Jamaican diaspora is important, because we're feeling the blood. We are the ones that have to come out of pocket to sustain these people. So we have the land, right? In America, most Black Americans are still waiting for 40 acres and a mule. Jamaicans, in many cases, have the 40 acres. Their land is just sitting there doing nothing at all in these farming communities. And on what Farm Up Jamaica is saying is, let's use those lands and turn it around and feed the hotels and feed the supermarkets and feed the rest of the Caribbean and feed the United States and England and Canada. Instead of having loved ones that are only able to take money, but now we could take that money and make that money sustainable, that everybody's making money.
That's amazing. As they say, sometimes the solution's right in front of your face.
Absolutely.
I love it. It's definitely touched my heart. All right. So coming to my last question for you, Neil, and it's I guess it's not really even a question. Maybe it's an appeal to fellow Jamaicans. So I guess if you were going to reach out to all Jamaicans that are everywhere in the world, I guess what would be your appeal that you would tell them so that they could join up Farm America to Farm
Up Jamaica.
Farm Up Jamaica. Sorry, Farm Up Jamaica, to make a difference?
I would ask and I would appeal that every Jamaican that has, and I don't know if there's a such thing, Jamaican blood coursing through their veins, in whatever way that may be, could be grandchild, son, brother, whoever, that here is this one opportunity that I believe we're going to be able to unite on, because we all realize that agriculture is not only something that's in our bloodline, but worldwide it's important to the world at this moment. And I believe that here is that one time where we're going to make this very specific socioeconomic investment into our communities. And the greatest part about it, it's our communities, right? I'm not asking people to invest in someone else's community. I want you to invest in where you come from, where your navel string cut, as Jamaicans say, and come and help back at the location where you were born, that brought you to this planet Earth. And I'm asking you to simply get in touch with us, and let's hold hands and look for all the other persons around the world that come from that same community, and hold hands together and create these new places that are going to go from dormant to really changing the lives of people and actually creating a global impact on the economy and the availability of food for the world. And you would never believe that your little community in Jamaica could have such a big impact. And this is the time for us to hold hands and make this thing happen. That would be my appeal to Jamaicans living abroad. It doesn't make a difference if you're a farmer or not, or if you come from farming. This is just the one time that we have an opportunity to unite our voices and our financial capability into one big ball, to be able to ask for the things that we want and get them when we need them, and to also be able to invest sufficiently in our communities to really turn the return on investment to a level where it not only sustains our loved ones that live in Jamaica, but actually can have even a return on investment for us as investors that are coming in from abroad. It's not just about social work. Farming is one of the largest returns on investment. When you look at the numbers, they're staggering. When you look at, you plant one seed of corn, and then it grows an ear of corn, and that ear of corn has 1,000 seeds on that ear. So that's 1,000 return on investment, 1,000%, right? And so if you put a number to each corn, if you were selling them back as seeds, it's staggering. But just imagine if you took the 1,000 corn seeds and just replanted them. That's 1,000 ears of corn with 1,000 seeds on each ear of corn. That's 1 million seeds. So if you planted the 1 million seeds, how many do you really have? And how much do you have? It's staggering. The bottom line is the numbers are staggering. We just have to fall in line and understand this is the reason why the Queen of England wanted to come to Jamaica, for agriculture. They didn't find gold. They didn't find silver. They found agriculture. They found sugarcane. They found bananas. They found chocolate. They found ginger. They found turmeric. We have to become that new power. I'm asking every Jamaican to understand how profound and how important this is, and to come together and let's unite and change Jamaica before it's too late, and that your great-grand and your grand, or I should say your grand and your great-grand would actually get to know this place as a positive thing and not as a place that we've abandoned because we didn't want to go back and now it's taken over by other people. That would be my appeal.
Yes, I love it. Thank you, Neil, for your time and insight. To learn more about Neil Curtis, go to farmupjamaica.org. If you have a passion for an unserved community, a social justice problem, or want to change minds, contact Project Good Work at projectgood.work to start your project of change today. Subscribe to our mailing list at projectgood.work/subscribe to get our episodes and blog articles sent to you each month. To our listeners, thanks for tuning in to Project Good, where we're focused on what matters.